No dynamics, because in civil, not a lot of things should move. If things are moving, you might have problems. So stay still.
What is up, people of the internet? My name is Avery and I've just finished my second year of electrical engineering at UBC. But throughout my second year, I always wondered what second year was like for all the other engineering programs at UBC. So I reached out to a bunch of people, and in this video, we'll be covering almost everything you need to know before heading into second year civil engineering. Timestamps will be in the description below if you want to reference certain parts of this video again in the future. And without further ado, let's dive into second year civil engineering at UBC.
Hello, my name is Mariana, and I just finished my second year in civil engineering. I was interested in civil because I think out of all the engineerings, it's the engineering that you can make the biggest impact in the world. Like anything that you do, any project that you work on, it's gonna affect someone in some way, and usually in a big way. It's gonna be a lot of responsibility, but also you have a lot of chances of making an impact in the world, which is kind of what I wanna do. So I took, in total, was it 13 courses? Because it was, 5 in the first term, and then 7 in the second term, and then 1 in the summer. And usually people take 14 courses. They take 6 and 7, and then 1, or 7, 6, and 1. And that's without any electives. So I took Math 253 in the summer. Most people I knew, they were taking it in first term, online. I didn't hear too many bad things about it. I think it was okay. But I do recommend taking it in the summer and just getting it out of the way. And then it makes, at least it made first term for me, much easier. Civil 201 and Civil 203, they are different courses, but they're also very connected. For Civil 201, that's kind of the APSC course, but specifically for civil engineering, it's called Intro to Civil Engineering. And it teaches you about the process of what a civil engineer has to go through and all the different steps of a project. And they put you in groups of 5 people, and then you kind of work together to write up project proposals, and you just work together in a group. And then Civil 203, that's your communications course. So it was the same classes, the same prof, same groups. They were right after each other, and they were in a different lecture hall. So we just migrated as a group to a different lecture hall. I don't know why they did that, but Civil 203, it was pretty easy. Not a lot of writing. It was just wrote some emails, wrote some stuff, and then it did not take much of your time at all. So I heard other people's technical communication was a lot more writing. So if you go into civil, you won't have to do that much writing for that. So that's pretty good. For Civil 201 and Civil 203, there were no midterms. There were final exams written on paper, and they gave you so much time. You can leave early, and you can go home and sleep, because you don't have to study for that. I think they have to give a final exam, so they just gave a little final exam. No one has ever failed. Oh, also for Civil 201, in the beginning of the course, they introduce you to AutoCAD, which is what you're gonna be working with for a while. I wish it was a bigger component of the course, to be honest, because that was pretty interesting. And we got to do a very, very small project, like a little house. It was taught by Pamela Wolf. So she was teaching the course, and then a month into it, she had to go on medical leave, it was an accident, and then she was gone. But she didn't have anything for the course that other people could use to teach the course. So the TA had to kind of step in and teach it. She wasn't a professor, but our other instructor had to also step in and teach it. But it was a mess. It was a mess. The course was kind of messy. And all the assignments, they were really vague. You didn't get a lot of feedback from them. The content of the course was really useful in terms of what you're gonna do after you graduate, so they really should have taught that better. So EOSC 210, our science for engineers. That was, I like to call it rocks class. The first big chunk of the class, you're just learning about rocks and minerals, and you're just memorizing a lot of very useless information about rocks and minerals. Don't let the geo kids hear that. It was pretty cool, because there was also a lab component to it. So it was 2 1.5-hour lectures, and then 1 weekly lab where you actually go to see all the minerals, and they gave you a tray with all of them, and you got to look at the different types and actually test out the different properties, which is pretty cool. And then they had a rocks and minerals quiz, which they just passed a tray with a different type of rock or mineral, and then they had a question about it. It's not too bad, okay? Just a lot of memorization. During the labs, you had a little quiz about what you learned in the previous lab. So they would teach you content, and then in the next lab you would get tested on the content that they taught in the previous lab. So after the rocks and minerals quiz, the lab sections were kind of more independent of the classes. And then the other half of the course was more earth science, so broader stuff about the earth, which was actually pretty interesting. So there was one midterm for that class and one final exam. I don't remember for the midterm, but for the final was multiple choice and written questions. I think for the midterm was just multiple choice. But the way that they do it is you go write the exam, right? You're on your own writing the exam, you write the exam, and then when you finish, you hand in the exam and then they give you another one, the exact same test that you just took. And then you get into groups of, I think, 4 people. And then you retake the exam with those 4 people. And it's really cool because you get to talk about like your answers and you actually understand what you did wrong right after you finish the test, which is so helpful because usually you just get out of the exam room and you have no idea how you did. And you don't really look back at the content because, I don't know, the trauma is too strong sometimes. So that was a really cool way of giving tests that I think more classes should do. And they did it in the final too. So like, they genuinely care about you understanding the content, which is so cool. Civil 215, Fluid Mechanics with Gregory Lawrence. He's a sweet old man, a little old-fashioned. His notes are still on paper. Doesn't really have slides, it's just like a bunch of pages that he fills in the notes. Not too bad. The lectures are a little painful, 1.5 hours. You can get through it. It's not too bad. He does little in-class demonstrations, in-class labs, which are pretty cool. Other specializations also take that course, and so you hear other people also talking about it. They have optional quizzes that you can take. It was like 5 or 6 quizzes that you can take if you want. If you don't take it, the weight of that quiz just gets passed on to the final, which is pretty scary because then the finals weight a lot. So I recommend doing all the quizzes, and it also helps you stay on track and review the material as you learn it instead of just learning it all before the final, which sometimes usually doesn't work too well. But if it works for you, it works for you. And then there was also one assignment that towards the end of the course that you like design a little pipeline, and it was pretty cool. You made a giant Excel sheet, wrote a report, handed it in, and yeah, the marking was pretty easy. It's not too bad. Yeah, so Civil 230, solid mechanics. It was so fun. Oh my God. No, it was really, it really was. It was with Cheyenne. I love Cheyenne. The best prof. He's like one of the younger ones, so he hasn't like lost his will to live yet, which is refreshing. But he was so good. He taught so well and his slides were so good and so helpful. And the content was also really interesting. It was 170, but only the statics portion, like no dynamics, because in civil, not a lot of things should move. If things are moving, you might have problems. So stay still. Yeah, pretty much 170. If you got through 170, if you enjoyed it, you're gonna enjoy this course as well. So for the scores, 3 1-hour lectures and 1 tutorial session on Fridays. It was no midterms, but they had weekly quizzes and weekly webworks. I think it was probably the course where you had to spend the most time on it, because there were a lot of different concepts that you have to wrap your head around. So each quiz was worth around 4%, and they were all mandatory, different from 215, so you have to take them. But they help you keep up with the content, and they were pretty similar to the webwork questions. So if you're able to do the webworks without a problem, you'll be fine for the quizzes. And then the final exam was also similar format to the quizzes and the webwork questions. It's a pretty steady course, no surprises. The prof is incredible. Taught by Lysantha. It was 8 a.m.s, 3 times a week. It was rough, okay? It was rough. He had a really thick accent, and personally, it was difficult to understand him. So just looking at the slides, going off of that was pretty helpful. He did in-class examples, which were kind of nice to know, but I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand him, okay? So I had to look through it on my own. And yeah, most people I know also just look through the slides after class on their own time. And then there were weekly webworks and weekly labs, which you got together with a little group. You don't get to choose your group, you just get there and they assign you a group. You either do some problems related to class, because you're gonna learn RStudio, which is like MATLAB, but more for statistics. Not the most helpful tool you're gonna learn in this term. Yeah, so they give you RStudio, so you just do your little code, you read the pre-lab, and it's basically just a pre-lab, copy paste the pre-lab, change some stuff, hand it in. They mark it pretty easy. Then there were 2 written assignments for stats. You can do them like a couple days before. I don't speak from experience at all. Not at all. But they give you like a few weeks to do it, so you should probably start before, a couple days before. But yeah, they're doable and they're pretty helpful. Yeah, there was 1 midterm and a final. No surprises. They give you lots of practice to work from. The format of the midterm and the final, they're pretty much the same.
Just a little premise, we completely forgot to talk about Civil 204 in the video, so we're doing this now 2 days later. So, go ahead.
You thought you were done. No, there's one more. Civil 204, Environmental Engineering, Troy Vassos. He's an okay prof. He's just a little bit old. He's trying to get through it. He's doing his best. But the course itself, environmental engineering, it's basically high school chemistry and biology. Like, if I had taken this course 2 years ago, I probably would have done better because I was still like fresh in my mind from high school. But anyway, there's 2 lectures a week, 1.5 hours, no assignments, no labs, nothing. You show up to class, you have, I think it was 4 quizzes that we had. They're basically like little midterms, but they're multiple choice and calculations, and they're so easy. Like, it's so easy to do well in the course. It's so peaceful. I think the hardest part is actually just showing up to class and motivating yourself to learn because the course is kind of boring. Okay, I don't love chemistry or biology, but if you are into that, then you're gonna enjoy it. And grade booster. Yeah, the final, same format as the quizzes, multiple choice and calculations. Can you hear my dog in the background? Is he gonna be featured in it?
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, so final, same format as the quizzes, and no surprises or anything. And the prof is really easy to reach out to. If you email him, he'll respond pretty much right away. Overall, pretty peaceful course. I didn't like Civil 210. Okay, Civil 210 wasn't great. It's like EOSC 210, but more focused on calculations and like slope stability, failure envelopes, more circles. Like, you're looking at a lot of calculations and a lot of I didn't like that class. There were 2 profs teaching it. Okay, it was divided into 4 modules, and then the first prof taught the first module, and then the second prof taught modules 2 and 3. Then the first prof came back to teach the last module. Pretty simple stuff. It was a really old-fashioned old guy who didn't post any notes online. He just posted like the empty notes, just like the skeleton notes. And if you don't go to class, you're kind of screwed. Or just ask people that went to class, I guess, but I don't know. He could just post the notes. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. It was 2 1.5-hour lectures and a lab portion every 2 or 3 weeks. And they're related to what you're learning in class, but they're really hands-on labs with a formal lab report and everything. And you're in groups of 3. Go into the lab, there's a pre-lab, so you watch all those videos. You go into the lab, you take all your data, you go home, then you have a week or 2 to write the report. It's pretty painless, I would say. The reports are kind of extensive, but if you get a good group, you'll be fine. And they're pretty easy in the marking. There's 1 midterm for the class and a final. The midterm was brutal, man. For me, the midterm was brutal. That scared the Jesus out of me. That was a brutal midterm. I walked out of the exam feeling so confident. Wow, I was humbled. But then the final was, okay, pretty much the same format as the midterm, but if you prepare yourself for it, you'll be okay. As he likes to brag, John likes to brag, a lot of people fail that class. I hate when profs brag about that, so worse brag. But if you fail the class and you pass the lab portion, you don't have to retake the lab portion, you just retake the class, which is a plus. Ooh, okay, Civil 231. So fun. This is the room we're in, that we spent a lot of time in this room for this class. It was a continuation of Civil 230, which was a continuation of Physics 170, so this just keeps evolving. It was a pretty good class. The professor, Tony Yang, was pretty iconic. It was 2 1.5-hour lectures, and then Fridays you had a 2-hour tutorial where sometimes you had a quiz or sometimes you got to work on the project, which was building a truss, as you can see behind me. So you got to design it and actually test it out at the end of the term, which was so fun. And so they taught you S-Frame, a software that you can use, not on MacBook. So S-Frame, which you can run a lot of simulations and build your trusses and test out a bunch of stuff, which is really cool because all the problems that you solve for the course, you can also double check them in S-Frame. So it's a helpful tool if you don't have a MacBook. There were 4 quizzes, so during tutorial time. They give you a good amount of time, I found, and they were pretty easy on the marking. But the thing is, there's no assignments, like there's no webworks or anything for the class, so you just have to keep up with the content yourself, kind of review it on your own because they don't really check your understanding at all besides the quizzes. So you just kind of go to lectures, take notes, work through problems from the textbook. Like, they give you some practice problems, so those are pretty helpful too. APSC 278, that was a class that we took with a bunch of different specializations. It was materials engineering, so you got to learn about a bunch of different materials and a bunch of different material properties and how to test them and how to recognize failure and what causes material failure. It was pretty interesting actually, and the lab portion was also strongly correlated with the class pretty well. I loved that lab, it was so much fun. So APSC 279, there were pre-labs that you did. They explained the lab like really extensively. It was really good, and it was all multiple choice, so you got to do it online. You can work together for those. You can get all the answers, just work together. And I think it was 10 different sections, so depending on the section that you have, if you're not the first section doing it, you have all the answers. And then you get to the lab, you do fun activities where you break a bunch of stuff, and then you go home. And then the post-lab is like the web work questions, like a giant web work question that you can also work together for. I cannot recommend that enough. The post-labs, I mean, it's only one attempt, one like multiple choice, or sometimes, or a lot of the times you're gonna enter a lot of data. So watch out not to reload that page because you're gonna lose all that information. Yeah, that's pretty good, pretty easy to get a good mark if you just collaborate and double check your answers with other sections, or I mean, even better, just double check with the people in your section because you're gonna have the same values. For 278, there's 2 quizzes and a final. 279, no tests at all. But for 278, there's also, I think, bi-weekly assignments. It was like a Canvas quiz that you have unlimited time. Work through it on your own pace, and the lecture slides have all the information you could possibly need. Gabby's a great prof. So. Math 256. Like any other math course you took, very similar to Math 100, Math 101, very similar format of how the course is given. The prof is pretty good. The lectures were kind of painful to sit through. It was 1.5 hours of just a lot of slides and a lot of numbers. And weekly web works, again, nothing that you haven't seen in another math course. 2 midterms and a final. Pretty fair, but not my favorite course, so I didn't spend as much time as I could have spent. But yeah, doable. We did have 2 written assignments. They were brutal. They were awful. Jesus, they gave you a lot of time to work on it for a reason. You can do it individually, or you can do it in groups of up to 3 people. The first one I did myself, it was not a good idea. And then the second one I did with a partner, so that was better. So CIVL 235, plain surveying. So right after you finish all your finals, you're sick and tired of school, right? You want to go home and sleep. You're not going to do that. You're going to go to school, and you're going to spend your entire time at school from Monday to Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. going around. Okay, it's not too bad. You go around on campus. It was nice weather. We got to see outside. Like, it was a reasonable experience. So in the beginning of the course, you have like a lecture day, which is like an entire day of lectures. It's really hard to sit through, especially if you're exhausted from the exam season that you just had. But they give you all the information that you're gonna need for the next week, pretty much. So if you zone out and miss the information, which was difficult not to do, you're kind of a little lost for the field activities that you're gonna do throughout the week. But it's a pretty good system. They have pretty good slides. And before each field exercise, you go into your homeroom, which is at CME in this building. You just go to your homeroom, they explain the exercise, and you just go around on campus. You wear your high visibility vest. You bring your heavy equipment around with you. It's a workout. Some people got, oh, they were so smart. Some people got like the little cards from Costco. And then they gave it back after. That was so smart. We should have done that. And then there were 2 midterms and a final for that. All multiple choice. There were a couple of like bonus questions in there, so you could do pretty well. Like, it wasn't too bad. If you collaborate or if you participate in the field activities, like you just be a decent person and not let your group do all the work, you're gonna understand the concept and you're gonna do pretty well in the midterms and the final. There were 9 field exercises and 9 reports to do. So after each exercise, you have to write a report, you have to do a lot of calculations for it, and you have to make it look really nice and really professional. And it's due the next morning. You're not gonna sleep too much, but most of the time it was 1 activity a day, but sometimes they had 2. So you were here for a while, but it was fun. You don't have to take it right after second year. Like, you can take it third year, you just have to take it before you graduate sometime. So I just chose to take it this year already because my friends were taking it. I just wanted to be with people that I already knew, people I knew I could work well with, that it wouldn't be as painful. So if you choose your groups well, you'll be okay. It's 4 people per group. Choose people that you don't hate. I mean, for all the courses, you don't really have that many options for your times, but I think the only one is like 279 that if like as long as you don't have the Monday section, other people will have done it before you and you can just check your answers. For stats, you can also pick your section. I had mine on Friday, which honestly I didn't really like. Like I could ask people about it before, but also it was a Friday evening. I just wanted to go home. Yeah, otherwise for schedules, like we had standard timetables, which we're not gonna have those anymore. Yeah, we had standard timetables. Some people had stats in the second term, some people had stats in first term. I had stats in the second term, but I wish I had taken it in the first term because my first term was so easy, so nice and calm, and then second term was a bit more So because of that, because I took Math 253 in the summer and I didn't have that in first term, I had a little more time that I wish I had just moved stats to first term, and then things would have been a little more balanced. But otherwise, if you're taking the usual course load, like it's pretty good either way. Civil engineering, second year. Much easier than first year engineering. I don't know if it was because I got used to it, I don't know, but just generally there were really interesting classes. People in the specialization there are so nice. You can just talk to the people and they'll be open to chatting about anything you want to chat about. In the classes, they're interesting, the labs are fun, you're learning about content that you're actually gonna use. Compared to first year, it's a breeze. Most people I know didn't take an elective. I think some people took econ in second term, but I think that was it. I took my elective in the summer, like from first year to second year, which I also recommend doing. Just, you have that free time, just get it over with. I took Italian, it was fun. You got to speak in Italian and just kind of learn about their culture, which was really cool. There is a reduced course load that you can take that extends your degree. Like I know a lot of people are doing that. I think the courses that are dropped were Earth Science 210, EOSC 210 in first term, and then in second term I know some people dropped APSC 278 and APSC 279 with it, and also Civil 210. And I think in first term you also have the option of dropping, instead of dropping EOSC 210, some people dropped Civil 215, the fluid mechanics, so you can choose which one to drop. I took the full course load and I think that was pretty doable, but also I wasn't really doing anything outside school, so I didn't have much going on. You don't need any preparation before going into second year civil. The things you learn in first year, they'll be more than enough, like things that you need to know. I think the biggest course that you're gonna build off of was Physics 170. So if you didn't understand that, maybe go over some of those concepts, but otherwise you'll be okay. I think civil co-op was the least competitive to get in that I've heard. Everyone that applied got in pretty much that I know. It was so easy to get in, you just apply any. Because civil, there are so many jobs, like they just, yeah. If you are thinking about co-op, then civil is a really good choice. The co-op program in general does a pretty good job at exposing you to all the tools that you need, like how to build a cover letter for your resume or just be ready for an interview. UBC does offer some of that support, but co-op specifically, they have a lot more tools that you can use and people that you can reach out to talk about that. So it has helped me to look for a job because I don't think I would be working right now because I need structure. I need someone to tell me like, you need to submit this many letters by this day. Anyway, so it has helped me a lot. But I do know people outside of the co-op program with jobs, and I know people inside the co-op program without jobs. So it's really how much you put into it. So to find a job, I think the key is to start early, which I didn't really start that early, but I was still okay. But I think you start early and kind of pace yourself, like, oh, apply for this many jobs a week or like a few a day, something like that. So you're not applying to like a bunch of jobs in one day. Just like pace yourself. And also an important thing is just talk to other people, like double check your resume and your cover letters and give yourself tips, talk to other people about interviews. Make sure you are communicating with everyone else because sometimes you miss a very small thing in your cover letter or in your resume that all employers are not gonna miss. So make sure people are seeing your resume and your cover letters. Okay, civil second year, you're probably not gonna lose your sanity. It's a really fun program that you get to learn a lot in. And I think my advice would be just talk to people. If you're confused, reach out to people. Don't be confused on your own. We're We're all confused. Okay. Different from first year, like the professors have a smaller class, so reach out to them. Like most of them have great office hours that you can just walk in usually and talk about a problem that maybe you're struggling with. So I think that's something I didn't do in first year that I did in second year that helped me a lot. Get to know the people in your program. It's a lot smaller than first year where you're thrown in with 1,000 different people. Even though civil is not as small as some of the other specializations, it's still like it's like much smaller than first year. So get to know the people. My favorite course was Civil 230. Civil 210. BC Hydro. What else?
I need context for that later.
We have concussions, random sneezes. The best in the nation. Your structure will collapse. I think that's it.
Oh my god.
Cheyenne was so good. The Civil 201 prof, Pamela Wolf, I didn't like her. Okay. I wish I knew I would have time for design teams. I wish I would have joined design teams. They look like so much fun.
Which one would you have joined or wanted to join?
Seismic is pretty cool, or maybe Steel Bridge, just those main ones. I think most memorable moment was building our bridge, our truss. It was so fun. You got to design it and you got to come into the studio and actually make it. And then in the last day, you got to see it all fall apart. And then later we took the pieces down to a wreck beach and then we burned it. It was really cool. And we toasted marshmallows. I would not. Civil is...
Civil all the way?
Yeah, civil is a lot of fun.
And that's pretty much everything you need to know about second year civil engineering at UBC. I just want to say a huge thank you to Mariana for helping me with this video and for sharing her experiences in second year. As always, gently tap the like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell to be notified whenever I release a new video. With that being said, I hope this video brought you value, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.